So I went to Nordstrom, I said, I don't care what it costs, just dress me, and now I need a job at Gravity Payments so that I can afford this outfit. So Maria, let's talk about the big announcement, the $70,000 a year minimum salary for employees of Gravity Payments. Just talk us through how that came to be, where did this idea come from, and how it got rolled out to the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. So where it started from is we have such an excellent team at Gravity Payments. We have the people who are just so dedicated to serving our clients, who are so invested in the company that, Dan and everyone wanted some way to invest back in them. We need to retain this team. We need to continue to move forward and provide better service and even improve on ourselves. And we need to keep this team we have. So it came from a crazy idea that Dan had one day, and the more he thought about it and kind of the more traction he got, I think when he told me I about fell out of my seat, but the more we thought about it, it's the perfect decision. And we decided to announce it at an all-staff meeting. We have quarterly meetings at the end of every quarter to kind of wrap up performance and whatnot. And so we decided to announce it there to surprise everyone.
And what was the reaction to that?
It was a huge reaction. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I was really lucky because I was actually seated behind Dan, so I could see the faces on everyone. And jaws were dropping. People were looking around. Is this real? Is this an April Fool's joke? But everyone was thrilled. There was high fives, and then as soon as people kind of started understanding what was going on, there was a standing ovation. People were hugging, and we had a work happy hour afterwards where people were talking about it, and people were just in complete shock.
That's fantastic. So actually, if I understand correctly, this came a little bit from a theory of, as we in the nerd community like to call, decreasing marginal utility after $70,000 a year, right?
Right.
So talk about sort of what that concept is and how Dan came to think about that.
Yeah, so there's a study by, I think it's a Princeton researcher, who says that, for every incremental dollar you earn up to $70,000, it actually does buy happiness. It gives you the opportunity to have something else, whether that's, you're looking to buy a home, you're looking to buy a car, whatever it is, it actually does buy you happiness. And after $70,000, all of your basic needs can be met, and every incremental dollar is no longer, making you happier. Maybe it's going to something excessive or into savings or what have you. And especially in Seattle, where it's very expensive to live here. People need to make $70,000 just to live.
So I want to talk both about the impact of this on the company internally, and then obviously the impact on the rest of the community. Is this something that y'all did because you wanted to sort of lay down a gauntlet and force other companies to think differently? Or is this really just about making the best company that you could make?
It's a little bit about both. So, as I mentioned, the team we have is very invested in the company. And so we wanted to make the lives better of those that work at the company. So it was an internal decision. But I do think it's somewhat of a statement or an example that other companies can take from. Probably not you need to pay your employees $70,000, but you need to look internally. Think about the team you have. How can you make things better for them? Maybe for other companies, it's healthcare, it's food in the office. There's plenty of ways to make people's lives better. But it is a little bit of an example, that everyone can do something like this.
What have you heard from other companies? Are you seeing other companies really take up this challenge, or are they nervous about what their employees are going to come asking them for?
Yeah, we've heard a lot. I think I was joking with Dan. I said he has fan mail. We get stacks and stacks of mail every day from people reaching out to us saying, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to do something like this. And I think, speaking of digital innovation, I think Gravity tweeted, or somebody at Gravity tweeted today this really cool story, which someone locally to Seattle, some business had reached out to Gravity and said, what you did was really cool. I'd like to support you. I'd like to do business with you and become a customer. And so we worked with them and we signed them up and they became a customer, and we ended up being able to save them, I think it was like $7,000 a year on their credit card processing. And they reached out and said, you know what? You saved me $7,000 a year. I'm going to give that back to my employees. It was a really small company and probably $1,000 per person, but I thought that was really, really cool and really inspiring.
That's really exciting. That's great. So On the internal side of things, I assume that you're going to see employee retention significantly grow. I assume you're also probably seeing a lot of people unsolicited apply for jobs at the company. Talk about some of the internal dynamics that have changed.
Well, first of all, I knew it would be exciting. I knew people would be thrilled about this, but it's life-altering for people. There are people who are saying, I can afford to buy a home. People who are saying, I was behind on my student debt and that was a challenging decision for me and I no longer have to do that. So people are even more invested in the company, which is awesome. People, as soon as that announcement came out, our phones are ringing off the hooks and people are coming in at 6 a.m. and, staying really late too. So our productivity, of course, has increased. And then from there, we're getting a lot of business. We're getting a lot of people saying, we want to support you, we want to be a part of this, and we want to know who your customers are. We want to do business with you and your customers. So that's been really cool. But our recruiting has changed a lot, it's increased a lot, and it's exciting.
That's fantastic. I'm interested though, I'm sure there have been criticisms, and I just want to hear maybe some of the interesting critiques of why this is a terrible, terrible thing to do to pay your employees so much.
I think one of the most interesting ones is, well, what about the people who put the postage stamps on the mail? What about the administrative people? Is it fair for them to be paid the same as someone who's, a high-profile salesperson or, making huge contributions on the customer support side? And I think with that, what people aren't always thinking about is we're a very small company. We have 120 employees, so we don't actually have an administrative staff that's doing that. And probably the closest thing to that, they're putting postage stamps while they're doing phone interviews. We don't have that. So we've heard that. We've heard a lot of, everyone's going to be on welfare one day. There's been a little bit of criticism, but actually not much at all. So
that's good. And I assume that it's not $70,000 for everybody. It's $70,000 minimum salary. Some people obviously make more than that.
Exactly. That's where it starts, and it obviously will go up from there.
So we can definitely come back to this, and I should say, by the way, to all the audience here, we're going to have some time for Q&A, so please do feel free to think about some questions. We'd love to make this a little interactive discussion as well. But before we do that, I want to talk about the company overall, because this is not the only innovative thing the company's done. In fact, the very core business line of the company is founded on sort of an innovative, disruptive idea. So talk about what actually Gravity Payments does.
Yeah, so Gravity Payments is disruptive. We started about 10, 11 years ago by a guy named Dan Price, who's the CEO of the company, and he noticed that credit card processing and merchant services is an industry where the clients, the customers are underserved. So people are being taken advantage of. Usually independent business owners are not necessarily business people. They're usually great at a trade. They're the best pizza maker in town. They're the best at a skill that they're serving. But they're not necessarily business people, and therefore our industry often takes advantage of that and charges them really high rates, really confusing statements, and nobody really knows what it's like to process credit cards. And so we started as a way of changing this industry, and we want to grow into changing the way business is done. But for our industry, we're very transparent as a company. We disclose our margin. We disclose how much we make on every account. We disclose, what our pricing is, and we're not hiding fees. And so we're really trying to transform this industry as it is and really raise the bar so that our clients and future clients and past clients can demand this level of service from everyone they do business with, not just their credit card processing firm.
So really, there's something core to the company culture, which is about disruptive change, about how you do business, about how you treat your employees. It just sort of comes from the CEO on down.
Yeah, and to add to that, our culture is very entrepreneurial. So we hire people that appear entrepreneurial to us. So we tell everyone, we have this saying, you're your own CEO. We're not going to tell you what to do. You make decisions that are best for yourself, for the clients, and for the customer, and we're going to put you in a role that we trust you to do. So I think that's really cool too.
That sounds fantastic. I have to ask though about, there's probably some ups and downs with that. So maybe some lessons that you've learned as you've tried to push the boundaries, make your employees more entrepreneurial, try new things in the industry. What are some of the lessons you've learned, maybe things that haven't worked that have made you stronger?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So one thing we tried a couple years ago was we thought, someone in-house said, let's have an internal development team. This is the way the company is going. This is, where I see us going, and we said, great, run with it, show us everything, and that didn't work out for us. We decided that wasn't the right move for us, but what was awesome about it is we learned what we need. We all learned a little bit about development and what kind of things we're looking for when we hire someone to do that. And we've also, had people move into different geographical markets and kind of tried to expand in different ways, and we failed there. And I think Ryan was saying it earlier, you fail like 5 times before you get something right. And I think that's something that is really apparent at Gravity is we try a lot of things and we empower people, and we allow people to don't get discouraged if it doesn't go well. Just try it again. We want to reward people for thinking outside the box, for trying something. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. We'll try something else.
So this is a Seattle company, and I think Dan is a Seattle guy. You're a Seattle person. Do you think there's something about Seattle and the people of Seattle that makes this kind of company, this kind of culture possible?
That's a great question. I think so. The way it is right now, well, part of our culture is on Fridays we wear flannel, so that might not work everywhere. But we have found the most success when we expand outside Seattle in cities that are similar to Seattle. So we do really, really well in Portland, and we do really well in Hawaii, and those are cultures that are similar. Because the way we do business is very relational. It's kind of family oriented. We take time. We sit down with you. We want to learn about, the way your current setup is. And, we haven't started trying that with cultures that are totally different than the way we do things. In New York, it might be different.
So let's talk about, I'm sure particularly now Dan's getting a lot of requests for advice, and lots of companies that are saying, we want to be disruptive either in our business model or internally. So what are maybe some of the pieces of advice that you and Dan and other folks at the company would give to companies that are trying to be disruptive and trying to really shake things up?
Yeah, well, like I said, be okay with failure. Failure happens, and you can't let that scare you from making another bold move. So for Gravity, we make every decision because we want to serve our clients. We want to give even better service than we did yesterday. And so I think if you look internally at your company and you're thinking, what's important to the company? Why are we doing what we're doing? And stick with that the whole time, then you should be able to take risks. And you have to be okay with risk taking. You have to be comfortable with it. And then you have to be okay and if it fails. Every failure is a learning opportunity, and you have to understand that and risk it.
So what's the future now? You're growing as a company. You're trying new models. What's the next 5 years hold for Gravity Payments?
Well, let's see. Our mission is to be the most trusted company in America. And that's a bold move. That's a huge mission. But we want to change the way business is done. We want the norm to be transparent business acts. We want there to be fairness, and not only fairness, but treating clients and employees well. And I know there's a lot of other companies doing that as well. We want to be a part of it and contribute to it and kind of keep raising that bar.
There's a term that people have been using a lot recently of social entrepreneurship, right? The idea that you can do good and do well at the same time. It seems like that's something very core to your culture. Is that, I think Dan has actually talked about, this is the millennial way of doing things, or this sort of a generational thing. Is that sort of how you see the company as well? It really comes from this new perspective on what a business can and should be?
Yeah, absolutely. And with this decision, before we launched it, we knew that people would want to work for us, and we knew that our resume inflow would increase. I had no idea that we were going to get this many requests to do business with us. And I think just doing the right thing, good things kind of come your way. And so I thought this was more of like a social innovation. This is great for employees and great for morale, and people are going to be talking about us. But what we didn't know is that everyone wants to work with you and be a part of it. And so I do think things are going that way. But I think it's just an example of, if you do what you feel is right and you do right by everyone else, people are going to want to be a part of that.
That's fantastic. I'm sure that really resonates with a lot of folks in the room. If there are questions now, let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep going here. Let's see here. And there's going to be, there'll be a microphone that you can speak into as well. So just raise your hand. I'm going to keep asking questions, but just raise your hand and I'll know that you've got some questions coming up next here. So I want to ask a little bit more about the business model of the company, because I think that's really important as we understand sort of where this $70,000 came from. How, just on this very sort of core, how credit card processing happens, how is it different than the big guys that you would think of?
How is our business different?
Yeah, exactly.
It's our service. So a lot of our competitors are able to, if you say I want to do business with you today, they can convert you into a customer today. If you told me I want to be your customer, I want to be your customer by the end of the day, I would say you can't. It's important for us to have empathy with everybody we work with. We spend a lot of time getting to know you, getting to know your business, figuring out if we're the best fit for you. You know, we're not going to do business with someone that we can't help. We have more of a relationship strategy. So our goal is to, you know, spend time getting to know you, have a relationship, and that works really well for us because our clients and our vendors are as loyal to us as we are to them. And we kind of have a motto, which is I think something Mark Twain said, which is you never learn anything while you're talking. So we always try and listen, you know, 3 times as much as we talk, and that shows through our service. We have a huge customer support team. I think their service level agreement is to answer the phone within 2 rings, which they do every time, 24/7, which really, really sets us apart.
So I've heard a couple of big quotes, the be the most trusted company in America, the Mark Twain quote. Is that sort of part of the leadership style and culture? You have your sort of your mottos and the mission statement, if you will?
Yeah, well, we all like reading a lot, and so I think, you know, we're all the type of people that wake up early and review the news and are reading different quotes and books and whatnot and kind of sharing those things with each other. And I'm somebody that those things excite me, and I can kind of latch on to that. But we do have, one thing Dan said once is, you know, we want to stand up for the little guy or gal, you know, who's fighting for what they believe in, and we ended up getting that painted on our wall, and people kind of look at it. It's really cool. I think it's really cool.
All right, I'm still looking for if there are questions out there. Raise your hand. Oh, Hanson, yeah, please.
To get my mic up. Super tactical question here. What could we take away from how you guys actually announce this to the world that would actually be instrumental if we wanted to get the world's attention about something within our own organizations? Is this sort of like a viral thing that only strikes once, or are there some things that we can actually replicate to get this done properly?
Good question. So I think what's important is that what can be replicated is looking internally as a business leader, you know, looking beyond the lines of a spreadsheet and figuring out what can I do to make employees' lives better. And, you know, everyone wants to work for a company where employees' lives are great, right? So being able to do that and then being able to share it. You know, we've gotten a lot of publicity from, you know, people wrote stories about us, but the most of it is people retweeting it or, you know, reposting it on Facebook and saying, wow, this guy's so cool. So I think just having something that's inspiring, and, you know, with this specific thing, it appeals to both business owners and, you know, people who work at businesses. This really does appeal to everyone. And so being able to share both sides of the coin on that, I think, is what got it a lot of publicity.
And what struck me also is that when he made the announcement, your CEO, you actually had cameras there rolling, so you knew that you wanted to capture this for maybe a larger public.
Yeah.
And secondly, he's a pretty good-looking guy, right? So there is some pretty interesting media mix things going into how we're going to actually engage the world on this moving forward. So it struck me as there was some strategy that went into this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we want to make a statement. We want to say we are fighting to make lives better for everybody that works here, and we really think that other people should be doing this as well. So, yeah, he has gotten a lot of people emailing and trying to get a hold of him, telling him he's good looking.
It never hurts, absolutely.
Eric, you know all about that, don't you?
I do. It is really hard how many people want to know how to look like this. But I'll never give away my secrets. So do you do, you know, we read all, you know, about sort of what makes a great company culture, and it's all about skateboards in the office and, you know, ping pong tables or whatever the kids do these days. Is that part of the culture too, or is it really sort of a very business-focused environment, but just really entrepreneurial and welcoming and positive?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So I mentioned we wear flannel, very casual. You know, we have dogs in the office. There aren't any skateboards, but, you know, we have lunch provided, and, you know, we are very entrepreneurial and very hardworking, though. So like I said, people answer the phones within 2 rings, and so they're always at their desks. So they work really, really hard. A great example would be in 2013, we launched unlimited paid time off. And that was somewhat disruptive, and we just told everyone, we trust you, make the right decisions. And that's really paid off for us. I think the amount of PTO taken hasn't even increased.
Yeah, I've actually heard that a lot of companies that have that unlimited paid time off, they're like, I don't know if I should do this. They don't want to take it too much advantage, so they definitely think really closely about it. Do you listen to grunge on those Flannel Fridays? Is that an important part of what you do there?
We don't, but that's a good idea. We should do that.
I thought that was sort of hand in glove, as grunge and flannel. But
I listen to country music at my desk.
Fair enough. That sort of counts as well. All right. Well, I mean, it's the same, really. Just think about Eddie Vedder with a cowboy hat. Was there a?
I was looking for any hands, any break.
Yeah,
Oh, we got
fantastic.
two
Over there.
over here. That's great. Microphone's coming your way.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that this is a scalable practice, or is it specific to your company size and your already existing company culture that made this possible? I mean, I used to work for a nonprofit, and the concept of this as a nonprofit is like that.
Right.
So the question, just so everyone here heard, is this a scalable model? Does it only work for sort of a small to medium-sized company, for-profit, or can it really apply to big companies, to nonprofit organizations?
Yeah, good question. Is the $70,000 minimum wage scalable? My answer would be no. I think is the spirit of what was done easily replicable? Yeah, it is. I think that what we want to be replicated is that business leaders are looking internally, looking inside at their team and saying, is there any way I can make their lives better? And with a nonprofit, it's not going to be $70,000, right? It's going to be something different. But I do think the spirit of what was done can be emulated.
So a question over there, I think, as well, yeah.
So I think you made mention of when the announcement was made, it had some tie-in to maybe annual reviews or something to that effect. And we heard earlier about a trend in peer reviews. And since your company seems to take a different tact and so forth, I wondered just what is your review process like?
Yeah, great question. We actually do a lot of 360 reviews. So if anyone's not sure what those are, that's where we look at one person to review, and then we review everyone around them. So we review their boss, their peers, and then those who report to them. And we take a consensus of how they're doing. Because sometimes, someone's supervisor has a totally different opinion or sees them differently as those that are reporting to them. And so we do these 360 reviews, which are incredibly time-consuming, but incredibly valuable and important. I always keep mine and review it like every couple weeks. And it's time-consuming, which is why I think it's not done by every company. But figuring out little shortcuts, we do like little survey monkeys and have 15 leadership traits that we are asking people about. It's really cool to see that, and so we exercise that a lot.
Okay, we have time for one or two last questions here. If not from the audience, then I will take the moderator's responsibility and ask the last question. So, talk about, we had this question about scalable model. What happens as the company grows? Is this something that you see, let's say the company doubles in size, triples in size over the next 5 years. Does this stay the same? Do you think there's going to be tweaks along the way? How does this maybe change for you?
I'm not sure what it's going to be like down the road, but what I do know is that we're going to keep trying new things, right? So with this, our goal is to keep it the same, but yeah, we may have to tweak it down the road. But with our current team, it absolutely makes sense. Like I said, everyone works really hard, works more than $70,000. And our goal is to, as we continue to hire people and look for people to add to the team, to be adding these type of people that are worth $70,000 or worth more than that. So with that being the goal, I think it absolutely will work out, but there's obviously the chance that we'll have to make some tweaks and changes as we go.
Please join me in thanking Maria.